What's exciting to me is that I think this is the first time in my life that I've ever seen so much communication on these subjects. And I think so much recognition about the consequences of toxic tribalism, this tribal thinking that everyone seems to be engaged in on the right and on the left. I mean, in America, you need to go no further than going back and forth from CNN to Fox News to say something's wrong here. These are supposed to be news outlets. You have two completely different narratives, and that has nothing to do with what we're talking about with gender politics and radical left socialism and Marxism. What you're seeing in universities, though, is a radical departure from what I always considered universities great for. What I always considered universities great for is separating from your parents, challenging belief systems, and being engaged in the works of brilliant people who you can compare all of their findings and their discoveries and sit down and debate them in class. And when I was a kid, when I was in high school, I went to a very good high school, Newton South High School in Newton, Massachusetts. And one of the things that they did is they put on a debate between a guy from the Moral Majority, which was this right-wing Christian group that I don't even know if they're around anymore, but this was I was 14, so 81. And Barney Frank, who was that congressman, is now one of the first openly gay guys in Congress. And you got to watch these two people in this auditorium debate their points. And this Moral Majority guy had this, right-wing Ronald Reagan sort of point of view, and Barney Frank, who's kind of crazy. I mean, he got busted in some male prostitute scandal, but the gay community, that's not that big of a deal. And just Barney Frank took them apart. It was brilliant to watch, but it was a real debate. It was fascinating, and you got to see a mediocre mind versus a great mind. And you got to see this little thing. And I was like, wow, and it's one of the things that's always attracted me about the idea that two people with differing viewpoints can get together in front of a neutral audience, and these people can sort of decipher which way these people are thinking and why they're thinking.
Yeah, well, and bad as that is, and rife with conflict as that is, the alternative is to separate, as you pointed out, into two camps that don't talk.
Yes.
And the thing is, the consequence of not talking is that you fight. That's the end game. Because the only way you can stop from fighting with other people is by negotiating with them. And, one of the things that's also interesting, and this is partly why Silicon Valley leans to the left, is that a fair bit of your political preference is determined by your biological temperament. It's strongly influenced. So if you're a creative type who's kind of disorderly, then you're likely to be on the liberal left end of the distribution. And if you're a non-creative type who's orderly and especially if you're orderly, then you tend to be on the right-wing end of things. Well, why is that? Why do those variations exist? Well, they exist because some of the time your best strategy is to do what other people have done and shut the hell up and just do it. Run the algorithm, right? The pathway's already laid clear. It works. Stay in the damn rut and move forward. Okay, so that's the conservative approach. And when things are going right, it's the right approach. The problem is that sometimes it's not the right approach because something has shifted. And so something new has to emerge. And so then there's a bunch of people who are adapted to the new. And those are the entrepreneurial and creative types. And of course, they dominate Silicon Valley because it's a very entrepreneurial, what would you call it? Geography. And so they're going to lean to the left. But they have to understand, people have to understand that the left and the right need each other. The liberals and the conservatives need each other. Liberals start companies. Conservatives run them. And the problem with the conservatives is, well, they can only run a company in one direction because they're conservative. They don't think outside the box. But so if the company is working and the product line is good and everything is stable, like hire some conservatives because they'll maximize efficiency and they'll move down that track. But if the track is no longer going in a good direction because something's changed, the environment's changed, well, then you got to bring in the creative people. And so we need each other. And the only way that we can survive the fact that we're different and the fact that we need each other is by continually talking. We have to talk constantly. It's like, well, how much of what we're doing should we preserve versus how much of what we're doing should we transform? And the answer is, Well, we don't know because the environment keeps changing. So what do we do about that? We talk.